It was still an awful thing to do, Noah said. So, you didn't mean any of the things you said about me to the cheerleaders, the jocks, or your neighbors? Tate slowly shook his head. No, not a word. He looked at Noah with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. Do you walk through our lives with your eyes closed? Anyone with eyes who lived in this house could see that whatever I had said wouldn't have matched my usual daily interaction and admiration for you. Was your low self-esteem or ignorance why you believed all of the gossip? Noah didn't answer. If I truly thought you were beneath me, why would I have shared my life with you? Why would I have wanted you around? None of that made any sense. Tate leaned back with a tired sigh. I'm not like those wealthy men who stay married to women they can't stand just to keep up appearances. If I don't want someone in my life, they're gone. I don't keep people around out of obligation. He hesitated before continuing. As for the women I slept with, yes, some of those relationships were shallow. Many of them weren't interested in me as a person. They wanted access to my family's money, our social standing, or the doors my last name could open. His voice hardened. I knew they were using me. They saw me as an opportunity, not a human being, so I ended things before they could use me the way they intended. You can judge me for that if you want, but I saw it as protecting myself. Noah crossed his arms. And you never thought they might have felt the same way about you, that they thought you were using them? Tate was silent for a moment. Maybe some of them did. He looked back at Noah. But you, his expression softened, you were never one of them. You weren't a social strategy, you weren't a stepping stone, you weren't someone I kept around because you were useful. He gave a bitter laugh. The whole point of pretending you didn't matter was because you mattered too much. I thought hiding that would keep people from hurting you. Noah's face remained unreadable. It still hurts me, he said quietly. Tate lowered his eyes. I know. And that's the part I'll regret for the rest of my life. Tate continued, his voice quieter than before. Whatever unkind, dehumanizing, or cruel things I said about you outside this house, I said them because I believed I was protecting you. He looked down at the floor. If anyone had realized you truly mattered to someone like me, they wouldn't have stopped until they found a way to use you against me. That's the way my world works. He gave a weary sigh. People who get too close to wealth usually end up one of two ways: they're destroyed by it, or they become the sort of people who destroy others to get more of it. His eyes returned to Noah. You're too sweet for that world, too trusting, too sincere. A faint sad smile crossed his face. You still believe people generally mean what they say. Most of the people I grew up around don't. Every friendship has a purpose. Every favor has a price. Every compliment comes with an expectation. He shook his head. If people knew you were important to me, they wouldn't come after you because they liked you. They'd get close to you because you were the easiest path to me. They'd flatter you, they'd befriend you, they'd invite you places, they'd make you believe they genuinely cared about you. His expression hardened. They wouldn't. They would be using you. They'd profit from knowing you. They'd use your kindness to gain access to my money, my family's influence, my connections, and everything that comes with my name. Tate folded his arms tightly. I've watched people do it my entire life. So I convinced everyone you were of no consequence to me. I made it look as though you were just someone I kept around to amuse myself, not someone I genuinely loved or respected. He swallowed. I thought that if everyone believed you were insignificant to me, they'd leave you alone. There would be nothing to gain by talking to you, nothing to exploit, no reason to manipulate you. His shoulders slumped. I thought making you seem unimportant would make you invisible. He looked at Noah with unmistakable regret. I know now that all I really did was make you feel unimportant. His voice fell almost to a whisper. I was trying to protect you from the people in my world. A painful silence followed. I never realized I was becoming one of the people you needed protection from. I assure you, Tate said, I don't keep you around because my mother likes you, although I won't pretend that it isn't a benefit. A faint smile crossed his face. It certainly makes it easier to keep you in this house when my family has taken such a shine to you. He looked at Noah thoughtfully. The more my mother cares about you, the safer you are here. people are less likely to mistreat someone she has decided to protect. Tate gave a quiet laugh. Honestly, I think my mother fell in love with you. He shook his head. The only thing she hasn't done is put a ribbon around your neck and claim you as her own. His smile softened. She absolutely adores you. For as long as I can remember, she's wanted another child. I think, in her own way, she finally got the son she always wished she'd had. He paused. I'm glad she has that. His expression became more serious. That doesn't mean I think of you as family. He immediately clarified. And it isn't because you're unworthy of being family. It's because I don't have a particularly high opinion of wealthy families, including my own. He looked down for a moment before continuing. The feelings I have toward you, Noah, they aren't familial. They aren't brotherly. They've never felt like ordinary friendship either. He exhaled slowly. I've tried to convince myself that's all this was: friendship, obligation, loyalty. He gave a small shake of his head. None of those explanations ever quite fit. He met Noah's eyes. And I think it's not romantic. A faint crease appeared on his brow. At least, I don't think that's the right word. His voice grew quieter. All I know is that whatever this is, it's something I've never felt for anyone else. And after all these years. He smiled sadly. I'm still trying to find a name for it. I know people out there, Tate said quietly, think I'm an emotionless monster. He gave a faint shrug. Maybe that's easier for them to believe. The truth is, I just don't feel things the way people expect me to, and when I do, I don't express those feelings the way they think I should. He looked away for a moment. The world I was raised in taught me that emotion is expensive. If I show too much affection, someone will use it against me. If I reveal what I care about, someone will try to take it away. If I let people know what I need, they'll make sure I keep paying for it. His jaw tightened. So I learned the first rule of being a wealthy man. Never let anyone know what you need. Never let anyone know what you want. Never let anyone know who you can't bear to lose. He looked back at Noah. You're here because I want you here. He smiled faintly. Not because you keep me warm. Not because of your company. Not because you're convenient. He chuckled softly. Those are all pleasant perks, I suppose, but they aren't why you're here. His expression became thoughtful. I brought you into this house because I was lonely, and for 100 other reasons I still can't fully explain. He paused. But you only stayed because, somewhere along the way, you chose to. His voice softened. I don't know very much about love. I've never been very good at recognizing it, and I'm even worse at talking about it. He looked directly into Noah's eyes. But I don't want you to stay because you think your purpose is to serve me. I don't want you here out of obligation. I don't want you here because you feel indebted to me. I don't want you sacrificing your life simply because you think I rescued yours. He slowly shook his head. I don't want anything from you. I don't need anything from you. A small smile appeared. I just want you to stay. He hesitated before continuing. Because whatever this is between us, whatever name it deserves, I hope it's something we both choose. His voice was barely above a whisper. I hope you stay because we love each other. Because our love, in whatever way we're capable of loving, is something special and unique between us. I don't know whether the world would call it friendship, family, or something else entirely. He smiled sadly. I only know that whatever it is. I don't want to face the rest of my life without you. Tate had always regarded Noah with the kind of deep, sentimental affection a young boy might feel for his most treasured toy, the little truck he carried everywhere, repaired when it broke and refused to part with because it held a lifetime of memories. The comparison was never about ownership. Tate never saw Noah as an object. Noah had his own mind, his own dreams, and his own choices. The comparison existed only because Tate struggled to find words for the depth of attachment he felt towards someone who had been woven into nearly every chapter of his life. Noah was familiar in the most comforting way imaginable. His laughter, his optimism, his gentle nature, and his unwavering presence had become part of the rhythm of Tate's existence. Long before Tate understood what love was or whether he was even capable of it, he knew that life felt incomplete without Noah nearby. Tate disliked competition for Noah's attention, but not because he wanted to control or isolate him. Rather, he believed he had stumbled across something extraordinarily rare, someone who cared for him without asking for status, influence, or wealth in return. In a world where nearly every relationship felt transactional, Noah's affection seemed effortless and sincere. Money could purchase nearly anything Tate desired, but it could never buy Noah's warmth, constant good humor, love, or quiet loyalty. Those were gifts freely given, and precisely because they couldn't be purchased, Tate valued them above everything else. What Tate wanted most was remarkably simple. He wanted Noah to remain part of his everyday life, to share meals, conversations, long evenings, and the ordinary routines that had become extraordinary simply because Noah was there. He cherished falling asleep knowing Noah was in the next room or beside him, and waking to the comforting certainty that Noah was still a part of his world. To Tate, Noah had never been valuable because he belonged to him. Noah was valuable because, despite having every freedom to leave, he kept choosing to stay. That choice meant more to Tate than all the wealth he had inherited. The idea of Noah wanting to replace Tate, or worse, letting anyone else intrude on those hours, felt like an egregious rupture, something unforgivable. No one touches this. No one interrupts this. This is ours. They weren't friends, the world couldn't define it. They were something else entirely, something private and unspoken. In Tate's mind, Noah, his beloved toy truck, could have other connections, could even be loved by others, but only under one condition: that nothing and no one interfered with the time, the routines, the quiet rituals of sleep and closeness that Tate depended on with Noe. Those moments belonged to him, to them, and the thought of losing even a second of it made something dark and desperate coil tightly in his chest. Tate felt it then, sharp and undeniable, betrayal mixed with a deep, aching heartache. A thought crept in that he couldn't shake. Is Noah emotionally outsourcing while prioritizing someone else during their special time together? Was Noah cheating? Not physically. Tate didn't care about romance or sex when it came to his relationship with Noah. The betrayal was something quieter, more dangerous, and life-changing than Tate wanted. Their platonic emotional connection and personal intimacy, the nights, the warmth, the unspoken closeness, was it real for Noah too, or was he simply enduring it until someone else came back into his life? Some unnamed thief who had already stolen pieces of Noah's attention, his thoughts, maybe even his heart. Is he just waiting, bidding his time to leave me? Tate's jaw tight. He wanted Noah to have guy friends. He could tolerate that, even encourage it, but girls were different. Girls were threats. Girls didn't share, they claimed. They wanted marriage, kids, exclusivity, things that would inevitably pull Noah out of Tate's bed, out of his routine, out of the one place Tate felt secure. They'll take him, they always do, they'll make him choose, and he won't choose me. The thought burned in his chest, heavy and suffocating. It wouldn't take much, just one girl, one connection strong enough, and Noah would be gone. Not slowly, not gently, but completely. The nights would end. The warmth would disappear. The quiet rituals Tate depended on would be replaced with something else, something he had no place in. Just one, it only takes one, and he's gone forever. If Tate didn't pull Noah close, didn't press him down, didn't anchor him with the weight of his body, Noah wouldn't be here at all. Tate felt that with a certainty that made his chest ache. And yet every time he reached for him now, Noah flinched. The smallest touch, the lightest brush of skin made the blonde tense and recoil, and each reaction carved something hollow and painful into Tate's chest. He used to lean into me. He used to want this. Noah had once loved his touches, had melted into the warmth, the closeness, and the quiet intimacy they shared. But now it felt different. Now it felt like Noah was somewhere else entirely. Did Noah wish it was someone else? Some girl? Someone softer, easier? Someone who doesn't make him flinch? Who is she? Tate asked again, voice cracking despite himself, tears slipping down his face before he could stop them. There's no one, Noah said quickly, almost too quickly. Tate's hand slid just beneath Noah's neck, holding him there, not rough but firm enough that Noah couldn't drift away. Tate stared at him, searching his face, something sharp and knowing settling behind his eyes. He's lying. Noah never lies. He never did. Not until last month, before the birthday party and Tiffany from USC. The realization hit harder than anything else. Not the distance, not the flinching, not even the fear of losing him, but the lie. Tate's chest tightened painfully, jealousy clawing its way up his throat until it felt like he might choke on it. The idea of her, whoever she was, standing where he stood, taking his place, being chosen over him, hollowed him out from the inside. She gets what was mine. She gets him. She gets the nights, the warmth, the space beside him that belongs to me. His vision blurred with tears as his breathing turned uneven, sharp with panic. It's Maya, isn't it? Tate sobbed, the name breaking out of him like something he'd been holding back for too long. She's going to take you from me, I know it, I can feel it, admit it, just admit it. His voice cracked, rising, desperate and raw. Admit you want her next to you in bed, admit you'd rather have her there than me, don't be a coward, tell me. Noah shook his head quickly, almost frantically, eyes wide with overwhelm. His chest rose and fell too fast, like he was trying to keep up with something he didn't understand how to stop. No, no, it's not like that, he said, voice strained, almost pleading. There's no one, I want to sleep alone, not with anyone, Tate, just by myself. The words landed like a blow. Not softer, not reassuring, worse. Detached, final. Tate froze for a split second, his mind scrambling to process it. Alone, not with anyone, not even me. The thought twisted into something darker, something more painful than jealousy. It wasn't just about losing Noah to someone else, it was the possibility that Noah didn't want him at all anymore. That even without another person, Tate had already been pushed out. You lie, Tate spat, the words sharp and immediate, cutting through the fragile air between them. His hands trembled, fingers curling as if trying to hold on to something already slipping away. You're lying to me, you have to be. You don't just wake up one day after 14 years spent together and decide you don't want me there anymore, and instead prefer a cold, empty bed without me is better than how we've slept for over a decade. His voice dropped, quieter now but heavier, more dangerous. You don't just stop choosing me. Noah flinched slightly at the accusation, his gaze dropping, shoulders tightening. Tate saw it, every small reaction, every hesitation, and it only fed the storm inside him. He's pulling away. He's already halfway gone. I can feel it. I'm losing him. Tate's chest rose sharply, breath catching as tears continued to fall unchecked. I know you, he said, voice breaking again, softer now but no less intense. I know when you're hiding something. You never used to lie to me, never. The silence that followed was suffocating, filled with everything neither of them could say. Tate's jealousy simmered just beneath the surface, quieter now but no less consuming. I can't compete with a girl, he said, voice low, almost hollow. Not one who can give you a family, real love, everything you're supposed to want. His jaw tightened as he looked away for a moment, bitterness flickering in his expression. I've got money, good looks, social status, a perfect body, he added. The words sounding emptier the more he said them. But you're not like that, you're not some materialistic, beauty-obsessed rascal chasing shallow things. He let out a slow breath, eyes drifting back to Noah, searching, almost pleading beneath the frustration. That's the problem, none of that matters to you, so what do I even have to offer? The sentence sat heavy in his chest, making everything he usually relied on feel useless, irrelevant. Noe, Tate whispered, his voice breaking in a way it never had before, fragile and stripped of every layer he usually hid behind. You don't understand, you can't comprehend why I love you so much. He has no idea what he is to me. How deep this goes, Tate thought, his chest tightening as the words left him. He closed his eyes, unable to bear Noah's expression, afraid of rejection, afraid of misunderstanding, afraid of seeing nothing reflected back. His fingers reached out instinctively, searching until they found Noah's hand, threading their fingers together on the mattress like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Noah felt the touch immediately, a quiet spark running through him despite everything. He's holding my hand, like this is real, like this matters. His heart thudded unevenly, torn between comfort and fear, between wanting to stay in that moment and wanting to pull away before it became too much. Those days, when you hid from me, Tate swallowed hard, his voice unsteady, each word dragged up from somewhere deep and raw. I couldn't eat, I couldn't exist without you, I couldn't sleep, I just existed, barely. I was empty without you, nothing worked, nothing made sense. Tate's thoughts raced behind his closed eyes, reliving it, the hollow ache, the restless nights, the constant searching for something that wasn't there. His grip on Noah's hand tightened slightly, almost unconsciously. I thought I lost you, I thought you were gone, and I couldn't survive that. Noah's chest tightened hearing it. He couldn't exist, sleep, because of me. Guilt crept in, sharp and immediate. I didn't know, I thought I was just giving him space. I didn't know it would hurt him like that. His fingers twitched slightly in Tate's grasp, unsure whether to hold tighter or pull away. It wasn't supposed to happen, Tate admitted quietly, his voice dropping lower, more vulnerable. What I feel for you, about you, because of you, us, none of it was expected, not by me, not by anyone. This wasn't part of the plan, you weren't supposed to matter like this, Tate thought, a bitter edge mixing with the tenderness. But you do, you matter more than anything, and I don't know how to stop it. I don't want to stop it. Noah's breath hitched faintly. Us, he keeps saying us, like we're something real, something defined. His thoughts spiraled, unsure, overwhelmed. What are we, what does he think we are, and why does it feel like I'm about to break just hearing him say it? Noe, I love you more than rich people love money, Tate continued, voice trembling but unwavering in its intensity. I love you more than my inheritance, more than the Blue family business, more than anything I was ever told would matter. All of it, the status, the future, the expectations, none of it compares to you. His thumb brushed faintly over Noah's hand, grounding himself in the contact. You're the only thing that feels real, the only thing I actually want. Noah felt the weight of those words settle into him, heavy and impossible to ignore. More than everything? That doesn't make sense. Why me? Why me of all people? His chest tightened again, a mix of disbelief and something dangerously close to longing. I love you more than my own truth, more than what I thought I was supposed to be, Tate went on, his voice soft but resolute, like he was confessing something he could never take back. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it ruins everything I thought I knew about myself, I still choose you. There was a fragile pause, the air between them thick with everything unsaid, before Tate added, quieter still, I even love your body more than my own, because I'd do anything to protect what we share. I'll accomplish anything so that we can continue the things we do in this bed. Noah frowned, genuinely puzzled by Tate's words. Protect what? He wondered. He looked around the familiar bedroom, the mattress, the rumpled blankets, the pillows they'd shared for years. We sleep here, Noah thought. We play video games, we watch movies, we joke around until one of us falls asleep. That was all. He searched his memory for what Tate could possibly mean. What things did we do in this bed? Nothing, Noah concluded. They had never kissed. They had never dated. They had never confessed romantic feelings to one another. They had never crossed any line beyond an unusually close relationship built on years of sharing a room and a bed for comfort. We don't do anything, Noah thought, more confused than ever, so what is there to protect? Tate spoke as though the bed itself represented something sacred that belonged only to them. But from Noah's perspective, it had always been practical. They slept there because Tate liked having someone nearby, because it was comforting, because it had become their routine over 14 years. To Noah, the bed wasn't evidence of a romantic relationship. It was simply where two buddies had spent countless nights talking until dawn, laughing over video games, complaining about school, and eventually falling asleep. If Tate believed the bed symbolized something deeper, he had never said so. Noah couldn't understand why Tate was acting as though something precious had been taken away when, in Noah's mind, nothing about their relationship had ever been romantic to begin with. That gap in understanding left Noah bewildered, while Tate's emotional attachment to the ritual of sharing the bed made perfect sense only from Tate's own perspective. Noah listened without interrupting, Tate's hand still woven tightly through his own. At first there was relief. Tate wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't accusing Noah of betrayal. Then the relief faded as the meaning of Tate's words settled in. What we share is rarer and more precious than any friendship or romance I've ever known. I've only witnessed a bond like ours once before, and I love you more deeply than I have ever had the courage to admit out loud. I chose us over 700 years of Blue family traditions, expectations, obligations, and the family business. None of my ancestors, living or dead, ever chose another person over duty, legacy, or the responsibility of carrying our family name forward. If I choose you, then I'm choosing to become the end of that line. I'm the last real hope the Blue family has of continuing its bloodline. If I never have children, then the Blue family ends with me. And even knowing that, I'd still rather spend my life with you than preserve a legacy I never truly wanted. I'd choose you every single time, but I also know you want a family someday. I can't give you that because I don't want children of my own. One day you'll wake up and realize you've sacrificed something important to stay with me. You'll grow tired of me and I won't even be able to blame you. Every relationship I've ever had that wasn't romantic eventually fell apart, or it became something empty, something that was never worth the emotional investment. My family disappointed me. The people I trusted disappointed me. Almost everyone eventually walked away or let me down. Maybe that's why I put too much pressure on what we have. Maybe I expect too much from us because, in a world where nearly everything else has fallen apart, you're the one constant I've never wanted to lose. You're the only thing in my life that has ever felt unquestionably good, and the thought of losing that terrifies me more than losing my family's name ever could. Noah blinked. He'd never thought of their relationship that way. To him, they had been inseparable companions, almost brothers in practice, if not by blood. Extraordinary because of the years they'd spent together, yes, but not something that was meant to exist above every other relationship. Then Tate continued. I thought you didn't need anyone else. Noah's expression softened. For the first time, he understood that Tate hadn't been trying to be cruel. He had genuinely believed Noah was content living entirely within the orbit of Tate and his family. But the next sentence made Noah's stomach sink. I'll let you have companions, even girls, whatever you want as long as I get to come along and you come home by 9 in the evening. Let me. The word echoed in Noah's mind. Tate was speaking as though he were making a generous compromise, unaware of how controlling it sounded. Noah looked down at their joined hands before looking back into Tate's eyes. Tate. His voice was quiet. You don't have to let me have companions. He squeezed Tate's hand gently instead of pulling away. Tate let out a heavy, trembling sigh, the sound carrying the weight of everything he had been holding inside. Our love is forbidden, Noe, he whispered, voice raw, almost brittle. It's dangerous for rich heirs to love poor boys. His gaze dropped, fingers tightening slightly around Noah's hand as if trying to anchor himself in the only connection he could still claim. Once you meet a nice girl, Tate continued, voice breaking, I'll have to throw you away, so you can be what's expected of you. That's the only ending we'll ever get. He swallowed hard, jaw tightening. I'll be alone for the rest of my life, or worse, I won't. Us. It'll just become a forgotten memory of childish sentiment, something we'll look back on and maybe even hate ourselves for. Tate wanted to scream, really scream, until his throat tore raw and the walls around him cracked under the force of it. Rage coiled tight in his chest, hot and suffocating, begging to be unleashed on anything within reach. It wasn't just anger, it was helplessness, the kind that made his hands shake and his jaw lock because there was nothing solid to hit, nothing he could break that would fix this. In the span of 3 weeks, everything had shifted, slipped through his fingers like water, no matter how tightly he tried to hold on. He was losing Noah. The realization didn't come all at once, it had been creeping in, quiet and insidious. In the way Noah's voice softened but grew distant, in the way his eyes no longer lingered, in the spaces between them that kept getting wider, colder, harder to cross, Tate noticed every small change, cataloged them like wounds he couldn't stop reopening. And the worst part, he didn't know how to stop it. His chest tightened painfully as he dragged a hand through his hair, packing like a caged animal. 3 weeks. That was all it had taken for something that felt permanent, unshakable, to start unraveling. It made no sense, it wasn't fair. Noah was supposed to be the one thing in Tate's life that didn't disappear, didn't drift away, didn't choose something else. But now Noah was already halfway gone. Tate clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles burned, his whole body trembling with the urge to grab onto him, to demand he stay, to force the world to snap back into place. Because losing Noah wasn't just losing someone he cared about, it felt like losing the only place he'd ever belonged. And that was something Tate didn't know how to survive. It's all I have, and I'm losing it anyway, Tate thought, chest tightening, mind racing with the images of future nights spent without Noah, empty sheets, cold blankets, a bed that will never hold warmth like this again. Our love, it will die, or turn into hate. And there's nothing I can do to stop it because you don't want to fight for us or stay long enough to fix our issues. Noah felt his stomach twist painfully at the words, heart hammering. He's already letting go, before it even fully existed. The idea of being thrown away, of being expected to leave, filled him with a cold dread. Is this how it's supposed to end? Just a memory, a lesson in longing and loss? I don't want to lose him. Noah's thoughts collided with guilt and confusion. I want him, I want us. But he's already decided for both of us. Tate's eyes lifted briefly to meet Noah's, shimmering with a mixture of fear, pain, and determination. It's the only way, Noe, the only way to survive this without destroying ourselves completely. Noah swallowed, lips trembling, caught between wanting to argue, to beg him to stay, and the crushing realization that Tate had already made his choice for both of them. Even our love, even this, it's not safe, it's never going to be safe. No competition, Noe, he murmured, his voice rough now, almost urgent. I'm serious. My stomach tightened, the words settled heavily between us, suffocating in their certainty. I have too much riding on our relationship, he added, quieter now but no less intense. I don't share my toys with anyone. A pause. And you're my favorite, beloved toy. Something in my chest twisted painfully at that. My thoughts scattered, tripping over each other, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. Mine. The word echoed first, louder than the rest, wrapping around everything else he said. It should have been simple, just a word, but coming from him it felt like a claim, like something final. You're mine. I could feel the weight of it pressing into me, settling into my skin, my bones, like it was trying to become permanent. And then the rest followed. No competition. My breath caught slightly, my mind latching onto that phrase with a mix of confusion and unease. He didn't just mean it casually, he never meant anything casually. There was something absolute in the way he said it, something that left no room for interpretation. Any competition will be removed. A chill crept down my spine. I didn't know exactly what he meant, but I also felt like I understood enough. And that was worse, because it wasn't just possessiveness, it wasn't just jealousy. It was something deeper, something more consuming, and somehow, that made my chest tighten for another reason entirely. Tate's lips twisted into a slow, almost wicked smile, sharp and dangerous. "I'm a prince," he said, voice low, deliberate, "and you're nothing, Noah. You should sleep on the floor. That's what befits your lack of rank. You're penniless, you're less than nothing." Noah's chest tightened, breath catching, heart hammering. Nothing, less than nothing. And yet he's still here, speaking to me as if I matter, like I belong, somehow. Tate's voice softened slightly, almost reverent, though the intensity never left his eyes. "Without you," he said quietly, "I'm nothing." Then Tate did something Noah would carry in his memory forever. He laid a hand on Noah's bare chest, directly over his bare heart, fingers pressing gently but insistently. Noah froze, every nerve alive, heart thundering. Tate leaned forward and pressed his mouth to Noah's heart, warm and grounding, claiming and protecting all at once. "Regardless of what people outside this room say," Tate murmured, voice husky, "or what rumors and gossip claim. Know this and only this matters, Noah. Hate me, love me, I care not why. I only want your heart to touch mine." Noah's breath hitched, chest tightening, a storm of awe and fear twisting inside him. "Even with the lies, even with the walls I can't climb, even with everything against us, none of it matters. Only this touch, only his heart against mine. In spite of the lies I tell, the barriers, the forces that work against us," Tate continued, voice trembling slightly, "these things don't matter. What remains, what defines us, is simple. I have never given my heart to anyone I've met because my heart has only ever wanted to touch yours." Noah's fingers dug into the sheets, pulse wild, mind reeling. His heart? Only mine, no one else. He's never given it to anyone but me. He's chosen me, even with everything, even with the danger, even with the lies. I can't breathe, I can't think, I can't stop feeling it. The room was still, electric with the weight of Tate's confession, the impossibility of their world outside, and the undeniable truth that, for all the chaos, all the rumors, all the lies, this one thing remained theirs alone. Because beneath the fear, beneath the sharp edge of his words, there was something else tangled in it, something that made it harder to pull away. He cared. In his own way, twisted and overwhelming and impossible to fully understand. He cared, enough to claim me, enough to draw lines around me, enough to say there was no one else allowed. My thoughts spiraled faster and faster, trying to keep up with everything I was feeling at once. Is this what he thinks love is? Possession, control, elimination of anything that threatens it. And what did that make me? My chest ached as I turned his last words over in my mind. Toy. The word should have reduced me, should have made everything clear, should have been enough to push me away completely. But it didn't, because he hadn't said it like it meant nothing. He said beloved. That single word clung to me, refusing to let go. It softened the cruelty just enough to confuse me, to blur the line between being valued and being owned. Beloved Toy. I didn't know how to exist inside that, didn't know how to separate what was real from what was just how he understood the world. Part of me wanted to pull back, to create distance, to remind myself that this wasn't normal, that none of this was something I should accept. But another part of me stayed still. Because if I was honest, painfully honest, there was something in the way he said mine that made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't ignore. Something in the way he refused to share, refused to let anyone else in, that made me feel chosen, and that terrified me. Because it meant he was wrapping himself around every part of my life, closing off every exit before I even realized I needed one. No competition. The words echoed again, louder this time. No one else. No distractions, no escape. Just him. Just us. My heart pounded unevenly as I stood there, caught between two truths I couldn't reconcile. I should have been afraid enough to leave, but instead, I was still there. At 22, Tate said, his voice calm, certain in a way that made it feel less like a promise and more like something already decided. I'll show you how much our relationship is worth to me when I inherit my fortune. Before I could even process that, Tate went on explaining his words. Hold still. His hand came up firm against my head, fingers pressing just enough to keep me in place. Not rough, but not optional either. I stilled, not because I wanted to, because I didn't think to do anything else. Then I felt it, his fingers threading into my hair, steady, controlled. A second later, snip. The sound cut through the silence, sharp and clean. My breath caught instantly, something in my chest tightening before my mind could even form a thought. For a second I didn't move, didn't react. It was like my body had frozen in place, waiting for my brain to catch up. What slowly I turned, and there he was. Tate stood close, scissors still in his hand, and in the other a long lock of my blonde hair. My stomach dropped. I stared at it, my thoughts stumbling over themselves, trying to land somewhere solid. He cut my hair. The realization came in fragments, dull and disjointed, like it didn't fully belong to reality yet. He didn't ask because he didn't need to. Tate knows I wouldn't object. The thought came sharper this time, louder. He didn't hesitate either, didn't explain, didn't look unsure, he just did it. My chest tightened as I watched him move again, calm as ever, like this was the most natural thing in the world. He opened his wallet, flipping it open with practiced ease, and then, carefully, almost deliberately, he tucked the lock of my hair inside the binder. Like it mattered. Like it had value. Like it belonged there. Something in me shifted at that, because it wasn't careless, it wasn't impulsive. Every movement was precise, intentional, like this was something he had already decided long before this moment ever happened. He planned this. My thoughts spiraled faster now, trying to keep up with everything I was feeling. Confusion, unease, something sharper underneath that I didn't want to name. Why? My eyes stayed on his wallet even after he closed it, as I could still see it there, tucked away, hidden but not gone. A piece of me literally kept on him, carried with him. The idea made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't ignore, because it wasn't just strange, it was intimate, uncomfortably so, and possessive. At 22, I'll show you how much our relationship is worth. The words came back, slotting into place with what I had just seen. Worth, was this part of that? Proof, ownership, something he could hold on to, something that tied me to him in a way I couldn't take back. My throat felt dry as I swallowed, my hand twitching slightly at my side before slowly lifting toward my hair. I hesitated just before touching it, like I wasn't sure I wanted to confirm it, because once I felt it, once I knew exactly what he'd taken, it would be real. And it already was real. Out of everything he could have done, he chose to keep it, to place it somewhere close, somewhere personal, like it meant something beyond the act itself. Like I meant something, and that thought, that was the one that unsettled me the most, because I couldn't tell if it made this better or so much worse. Tate smiled at me, calm and unreadable, and then he lay back down, resting his head on my chest as if he had every right to be there. His weight pressed into me in a way that was grounding and suffocating all at once, like he belonged there and I was just the surface he needed. I could feel the rise and fall of his breathing against me, steady but deliberate, and my chest tightened. My mind was still caught on the lock of my hair he had taken earlier, carefully tucked into his wallet, preserved like it had meaning, as it mattered to him. The thought refused to leave me, spinning and pressing and making the air in the room feel heavier. Then almost instinctively I reached out, my hand hovering near him. "Can I have a lock of your hair?" I asked quietly, my voice smaller than I expected. His eyes flicked up at me briefly, then down again, calm and deliberate. Before I could hesitate, he took my hand. His fingers wrapped around mine, warm, strong, guiding, steady. "Hold still," he murmured, his voice soft this time, not a command but more like an instruction, like he was teaching me something sacred. The scissors were in my hand before I even realized it. His hand stayed over mine, guiding the motion, controlling it just enough to make sure the cut was deliberate, perfect, and then, slowly, I cut. A long lock of his hair fell into my hand. It felt heavier than it should, as if the strands themselves carried something more than just the physical weight of them. My chest tightened as I stared down at it. "Promise me," he said, his voice low and serious, cutting through my thoughts. "You will never show this to anybody, you will never do anything with it." I froze, the lock of hair between my fingers suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. "I promise," I said automatically, my voice almost trembling. And as soon as the words were out, my mind exploded in a storm of thoughts, confusion, and fear. Why does it matter so much? Why is this different from my hair? He keeps mine, but mine belongs to me now, or to him. I turned the lock over in my fingers, watching the way the light caught it, how it seemed more vivid than before, like it had been infused with him, with something intangible that I couldn't name. And that terrified me. Does this mean I'm keeping a part of him, or am I stealing it? The thought twisted in my stomach, tightening with every heartbeat, because if I were stealing it he had already made it clear that stealing wasn't allowed, but if I was keeping it for him, what did that make me? Am I obeying him? Am I claiming him? Am I betraying him? The questions spun around my mind faster than I could answer them. Every instinct told me to push it away, to tell him it was too intimate, too strange, too much. But another part of me, some quiet, traitorous part, wanted to hold on to it, to keep it close, to feel like I had done something for him, something personal, something permanent. Tate shifted in bed, his body still heavy against Noah. Don't tell anyone about this because they might misunderstand. They might think us exchanging lots of hair and something sentimental, romantic, or worse, a threat to the rich world I live in. It's not a grand romantic gesture, Noah. It's just a sentimental reminder of the happiness we've shared. We're not lovers and we never will be. I won't dehumanize you like that. Rich boys only have sex with people they don't feel as equals or somebody they can get pregnant for their own game. I've never wanted to fuck you. If I ever fuck you, our relationship would turn into something familiar, wicked, exploitative, and utterly depraved. You rely on me to survive. I protect you from bullies. I'm in a position of authority. There's a power imbalance between us, and if I ever touched you sexually, it would be as though I'm preying on you, and I won't do that. We'll never be equals, not in our world. I'm not going to take advantage of you. If you want a sexual relationship or hope we'll be lovers, find it elsewhere or with someone else. Noah's thoughts raced as the words sank in. He's drawing the line again, saying we're not equals, that he won't touch me that way, but his hands are still on me, his body pressed close. He keeps saying no, yet the heat between us keeps building. I looked down at him, resting so easily against me, eyes closed as if this moment were simple, natural, nothing unusual. And my chest tightened even more. Does he even see this as intimate, or is it just a test? Does he know how I feel right now, or does he think I'll just obey because that's what I always do? Noah noticed that before Tate tucked Noah's lock of blonde hair into his wallet, there had already been another lock of silky black hair resting inside. For a fleeting moment, Noah's breath caught. He wondered whose it had been. An old friend, a relative, or more likely, one of Tate's many former lovers. The question burned at the edge of his mind, begging to be asked, but Noah swallowed it before it ever reached his lips. It wasn't his place to know. Tate's past belonged to Tate, and Noah had no right to demand explanations for pieces of his life that had existed long before Noah ever mattered. Still, the thought lingered. Jealousy settled heavily in Noah's chest before he could stop it. He hated how quickly it arrived and how impossible it was to reason away. Tate had always seemed larger than life, confident, charismatic, effortlessly attractive. People gravitated toward him without trying. Noah had heard enough gossip over the years to know Tate had never lacked for admirers. There always seemed to be another beautiful face drawn into his orbit, another person captivated by his charm. Compared to them, Noah felt painfully ordinary. He had no experience to speak of, no romantic history, no stories of passionate relationships or broken hearts. He was simply himself. Sometimes he wondered what Tate saw when he looked at him. Did Tate see an inexperienced virgin who seemed hopelessly naive beside someone as worldly as him? Someone awkward and sheltered, whose innocence was more embarrassing than endearing? The possibility made Noah's stomach tighten. Perhaps the only people who found inexperience appealing were those who deliberately sought it out, and Noah doubted Tate had ever been that kind of man. Tate had always seemed drawn toward confident people who knew exactly who they were. Noah wasn't sure he belonged in that category. He stared at the wallet for another second, trying to convince himself the black lock of hair meant nothing. It could have belonged to anyone. There were a dozen perfectly ordinary explanations. But emotions rarely listen to logic. The image refused to leave his mind. For the first time since Tate had carefully placed Noah's hair beside it, Noah wondered whether his own lock would someday become just another forgotten keepsake, buried beneath the memories of someone else who had once mattered. The thought hurt far more than he wanted to admit. Tate's fingers were still wrapped around the silky black lock of hair. Without a word, he carefully slipped Noah's blonde lock into the sleeve inside his wallet. Then, holding the black lock between his fingers, he walked slowly toward the garbage can. Noah's eyes followed him. Before letting go, Tate raised the black strands to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss against them. The gesture caught Noah completely off guard. It wasn't hurried or careless. It felt deliberate, a quiet farewell reserved for someone who had once occupied an important place in Tate's life. Then Tate released the hair into the trash. It fluttered down and disappeared beneath the discarded papers. Without another glance, Tate headed into the bathroom, washed his hands, and returned to bed as though nothing remarkable had happened. Noah couldn't stop staring at the wallet now resting on the nightstand. His thoughts spiraled. Was throwing away the black lock symbolic? Had Tate just said goodbye to someone he had once loved? Was that kiss a final act of gratitude before letting go of the memory forever? Or had the person ceased to matter long ago, the hair remaining in his wallet only because he had never found the right moment to part with it? Noah's gaze drifted back to the wallet. His own hair was inside now. Did Tate simply want Noah's presence with him wherever he went? Had he decided there was room for only one keepsake, only one reminder to carry each day? The questions piled one upon another. Noah wanted desperately to know whose hair it had been. A former lover. A childhood friend. Someone Tate had lost. He knew better than to ask. Tate guarded certain parts of himself with quiet determination, and Noah had learned that when Tate was ready to explain something, he would. Prying almost always made him retreat further behind his carefully built walls. So Noah remained silent. Still, the image refused to leave him. The farewell kiss. The soft drop into the trash. His own lock takes its place. A knot of jealousy twisted inside him before guilt quickly followed. Whoever that person had been, they had once mattered enough for Tate to carry a piece of them every day. Now that place belonged to Noah. He wasn't sure whether he should feel honored, relieved, or frightened by what that meant. Here's an embellished version that expands Noah's internal thoughts while preserving the scene and keeping the focus on emotion rather than the sexual references. Noah's voice cracked. Tate, have you ever been in love? The question hung in the quiet bedroom. Noah noticed Tate's eyes drift toward the trash can, lingering there for several long seconds as though his thoughts had followed the discarded lock of hair. His expression became distant, almost unreadable before he finally answered. No, Tate said quietly, I've never been in love with a girl. He let out a slow breath. It's pointless to fall in love at 18, Noah. I'm leaving for school soon, I'll never see most of these women again. Noah listened without interrupting. The lovers I've had were never about love, Tate continued. They're amusement. They're expected of a rich man. People assume someone like me should always have someone on my arm. I only have lovers as a distraction from the emptiness and solitude that comes with the life I was born into. Tate looked down at his hands. I don't even like sex. It's probably my least favorite thing to do. Silence settled between them. Noah wasn't sure what surprised him more, that Tate had admitted he had never been in love or that someone who seemed to attract so many people could dislike something everyone else his age seemed to obsess over. It didn't fit the image Noah had spent years building in his mind. He had always imagined Tate as someone who enjoyed the attention, who effortlessly moved from one relationship to the next because he wanted to. The rumors, the whispered gossip, the stories about Tate's many lovers had painted him as someone completely comfortable with that world. Now that picture was beginning to crack. If Tate truly disliked it, why keep doing it? Was loneliness really that unbearable? Noah's chest tightened. For the first time, he wondered how much of Tate's public life had been a performance, something done because it was expected rather than desired. The answer made Noah unexpectedly sad. Behind the confidence, the wealth, and the effortless charm was someone who sounded profoundly alone. His thoughts drifted back to the lock of black hair lying in the trash. If none of Tate's lovers had ever been about love, then whose hair had he just thrown away? The question tugged at Noah's mind, but he couldn't bring himself to ask it. Instead, he found himself studying Tate's face. He looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally, as though he had spent years pretending to enjoy a life that had never made him happy. Noah wished there were something he could say that would ease the loneliness Tate had just confessed to carrying. Instead, he remained quiet, letting Tate's words settle over him, realizing that the boy everyone envied might have been the loneliest person Noah had ever known. The contradictions twisted inside me. His hair in my hand, my hair in his wallet, both meaningful, both personal, but in entirely different ways. One was a gift I could hold, the other was a claim he had made, Why does his matter more than mine? Why is it sacred for him but secret and dangerous for me? My grip tightened around the lock of hair in my hand, even as my mind spun with unease. The air between us felt charged, heavy with rules I didn't understand but was already trapped by. And underneath it all, a quieter, more dangerous thought surfaced. Maybe this isn't about hair at all. Maybe this is about trust. Maybe this is about obedience. Maybe this is about proving that I will follow him. Maybe even when nothing about this makes sense. My chest ached with the weight of it. I didn't know if I wanted to obey, I didn't know if I wanted to understand, but I couldn't look away, because whether I understood it or not, I was holding him, and a piece of him was now in my hand, and that was something I wasn't sure I could ever give back. I froze at the words, my heart thumped so hard I could hear it in my ears. Relationship, equality, those weren't words I expected to hear from Tate. And yet, the weight of his control, the sharpness of his authority reminded me that this offer, like everything he gave, was conditional, dangerous, intoxicating, and absolute. No girl has ever slept in this bed, Tate continued almost proudly. I've been with girls on it or around it, yes, but no girl has ever slept in this bed, except for you, no girl ever will. I respect our time together. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. It wasn't just the possessiveness, it was the care embedded in it, the way he framed me as someone exceptional, not because of beauty or wealth or obedience alone, but because he had chosen me, and in his eyes that made me worthy. Tate sighed, his chest rising slowly as he held Noah close. You're mine, Noah. Tate's Noah. Don't tell anyone, we're safer if no one knows. Noah's heart hammered, a mix of relief, anxiety, and something else twisting in his chest. I won't, he whispered, voice barely audible. Tate's grip tightened around Noah's shoulders and back, heavy and anchoring, his presence pressing down like a weight that was both suffocating and comforting. You wear my clothes, my shoes. You sit in my car and I drive you to town. I give you gifts. I spoil you. I wouldn't do that if you were convenient. Easy, if I was just using you, Tate said, voice sharp for a moment, slicing through every doubt in Noah's mind. Stop listening to what other people say, what I think, what I feel. That's the only thing that matters. Noah swallowed hard, chest tight. He means it. He really does. He's not lying, but doubt flickered anyway. Could someone really feel this much for me? Tate's voice softened, quieter now, almost fragile. The only reason you're here is because I've grown attached to you. I need you to sleep. I need you to be here. I want to make it worth your while, and if you didn't want to be here, I'd change your mind somehow. I only ask that you're in bed with me, that you don't grow apart from me. Noah's throat went dry. I don't want to grow apart, but I need space, he whispered, words trembling. Tate leaned closer, his nose brushing against Noah's neck, warm breath tickling him. The grip around his shoulders and the weight of his arms pressed panic and longing into Noah's chest. He's desperate, protective, obsessive, and mine. Stop listening to what other people say about us, Tate murmured, low and dangerous. You're only here for one reason. Noah swallowed hard, feeling his pulse race, and that is. Tate scowled, his jaw tight. You already know the reason. I don't know, Noah admitted quietly, shaking his head. Tate exhaled slowly, brushing a hand through Noah's hair. I hate words, they're meaningless. I use them every day to manipulate. Girls, compliments, favors, all it takes and they'll do anything, but you're different. Words won't explain us, only this. Tate leaned down, lips hovering just a centimeter from Noah's. The heat, the closeness, the tension, it was electric. Noah's lower lip grazed Tate's bottom lip. Fireworks exploded in Noah's chest, a rush of electricity, desire, and awe all at once. This is him. He's here. He's mine. Noah shifted, trying to scoot to his side of the bed, but his hand slipped on the smooth sheets. His body tipped forward unexpectedly, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, he lost his balance completely. I'll give you anything, Tate said softly. Money, position, a home, even a lifetime supply of chocolate if that's what you want. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he gently caressed Noah's cheek with the back of his fingers. I don't want to give you those things to trap you, he continued, and I don't want to buy your loyalty either. His hand lingered for a moment before falling back into his lap. I give you things because I like seeing you smile, that's all. Your smile is genuine, and genuine emotion, genuine affection, almost doesn't exist in my world. His voice grew quieter. Where I come from, people are always calculating. Every favor comes with expectations. Every kindness has a price. If a rich man wants loyalty, he pays for it. If he wants love, he pays for it. If he wants people to stay, he pays for that too. Even family can feel like another transaction. Tate stared absently toward the floor. I grew up believing everything had a price tag attached to it. Money opens doors, buys influence, earns obedience, and convinces people to pretend they care. After a while, you stop knowing whether anyone actually likes you or whether they simply like what you can give them. He looked back at Noah. I don't want that with you. His expression softened into something unexpectedly vulnerable. If you stay, I want it to be because you chose to stay, not because I bought your loyalty, not because you felt indebted to me, and not because you thought you owed me anything. A small, uncertain smile crossed his face. So I'll keep giving you little things because I enjoy making you happy. That's different. Seeing your face light up is its own reward. He shook his head. I never want you wondering whether there's a hidden price behind my kindness. There isn't. If I ever give you something, it's because I wanted to, not because I expected something in return. For perhaps the first time that evening, Tate's carefully composed demeanor slipped. In my world, almost everything can be purchased. His eyes met Noah's. I just don't ever want what we have to become one of those things. My chest tightened at the offer. Money, chocolate, safety, all things that could be measured, quantified, and yet somehow none of it mattered as much as the words relationship and respect. My mind raced, imagining the possibility of staying here, of being recognized as something more than just a subordinate or a body to occupy space. And yet underneath the warmth, I felt the prickling anxiety that always accompanied Tate's control. Every offer came with strings I couldn't see, every promise contained a weight I couldn't lift. I knew that saying yes meant surrendering in some ways more than I could imagine. But part of me, terrified, aching, and inexplicably relieved, wanted to accept, wanted to be the one who mattered enough for him to make this exception. Tate's hand brushed against my arm as he leaned closer, not touching too much, just enough to remind me that he was there, that he had chosen me. I shivered, torn between the instinct to flee and the undeniable pull toward him. His control was complete, but his offer was almost tender. And somewhere deep inside, I realized that no matter what I chose, my life had just changed, permanently. I love you, Noah, Tate said softly, his fingers threading through my hair as if he were tracing the lines of my skull, memorizing the way it felt beneath his touch. That's why I'll never ruin our relationship with sex or romantic bullshit. I can't love you that way, and if you ever do love me that way, tell me. I'll cut you a check, you can leave, you'll never have to lose out on anything just because you can't be here. The words struck me like ice and fire at once. Love, he said it, claimed it, but it wasn't like anything I had ever heard. It wasn't a confession of romance, it wasn't an invitation into intimacy in the way I'd imagined love. It was a declaration of possession, of singular importance, of a bond that transcended conventional boundaries. My stomach twisted, my chest tightened. I wanted to speak, to protest, to cry, but my throat felt clogged by the intensity of it, by the weight of him, by the heat of the words as they landed in my chest. I'll do anything in the world to get what I want, he continued, voice steady, almost casual, yet each word carried the weight of a command. What I want is you right here, keeping me warm and us loving each other. That's it, nothing else matters. The reassurance in his words collided with the fear curling in my chest. I was chosen, I was important, and yet I wasn't allowed to misunderstand it. I wasn't allowed to hope for something traditional, something normal, something that other people would call love. My mind spun with the contradiction, safe and treasured, yet bound, regulated, and entirely under his definition of what mattered. My world might call you my pet, he said, the corner of his mouth lifting in a faint, almost mischievous smile, but I don't see you that way. If I tell you something, Noah, Tate said, his voice low, sharp, almost threatening, you can never tell another soul. Not my mother, not my father, not my uncle, not anyone. His eyes bored into mine, unblinking, and the words hit me like they were heavier than they should have been, but I couldn't quite process why. I promise, I said, my voice tight, unsure, nodding even though my mind was scrambling. My pulse raced, my thoughts spinning, but a part of me froze. Never tell anyone. What could it be? Why is it so serious? I didn't understand. I couldn't see the stakes, couldn't imagine the consequences Tate seemed to be hinting at. Tate swallowed, the movement deliberate, slow, like he was measuring the exact weight of his next words. I ran, he said, voice dropping lower, almost a growl, so you can stay. I blinked, confused. Run, didn't run, what does he mean? My mind searched for context, for a clue, for a single thread to hold on to, but there was nothing. His words felt like a lock without a key. I could feel the tension, the seriousness, but the meaning eluded me completely. I wanted to ask him, but the weight in his gaze stopped me, made me hesitate, made me feel like even asking would be dangerous. His fingers moved through my hair, slow, deliberate, grounding yet controlling, and I felt a swirl of emotion I couldn't name: fear, awe, tension. And yet, because I didn't understand, I felt none of the gravity he expected. Instead, I was puzzled, trying to piece together a puzzle I had no pieces for. Why is this important? Why am I here? I won't tell anyone, I said again, trying to sound firm, but my words felt hollow even as I spoke them. I nodded, trying to give him what he wanted, but I didn't really understand what I had agreed to. My mind kept spinning. What is he hiding? Why does it matter so much? Why can't he just tell me? Tate's gaze softened fractionally, just enough that I could see the boy underneath the commanding, almost terrifying presence. But the warning, the seriousness of his tone still lingered in the room, sharp and precise. I knew he expected obedience, that there was meaning I wasn't grasping, but I couldn't reach it. I didn't understand. I couldn't comprehend the depth of whatever secret he was guarding. And even as I felt the weight of the moment, even as my body reacted to his proximity, the warmth of his hand in my hair, the controlling insistence of his presence, my mind was caught in a haze of confusion. I don't get it. I don't understand. Why is this so important? I nodded again, promising what I couldn't possibly comprehend, feeling the pull of trust without knowing what I was truly trusting. Jesus, Tate whispered, his voice sharp and low, almost trembling with the force of what he was holding back. If anyone, especially in my world, ever knew the reason I ran is the reason you didn't, it would be. He trailed off, the last words heavy in the air, unspoken but loaded with implication. His eyes burned into mine, fierce and dark, as if daring me to question, to react, to speak. I froze, my brain scrambling, trying to parse the sentence. The reason he ran, the reason I didn't, what does that even mean? My heart slammed in my chest, but I couldn't grasp the significance, the danger, the magnitude of what he was hinting at. It was like staring into a shadowy tunnel with no light at the end, terrifying, unknowable, and completely beyond my comprehension. Wait, I don't understand, I stammered, voice barely above a whisper, and my stomach twisted in knots. The fear in his tone was palpable, yet the meaning of it eluded me entirely. Run from what? Why did he run? Why didn't I? I shook my head, unable to hold onto the thread of his logic, even as I felt the weight of it pressing down, demanding obedience and silence I didn't even fully comprehend. Tate's jaw tightened. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my temple and his hand threaded through my hair with that same firm, deliberate pressure. You will never tell anyone, he murmured, almost as much a warning as a plea. Not my world, not my family, not anyone. You don't know the half of it, Noah, and that's why it stays between us. You keep this secret, always, do you understand? I nodded, though the truth was I didn't. Not really. My mind raced, caught between awe and terror, desire and confusion. I wanted to trust him, to obey, to stay here with him, but I had no idea what I had just agreed to keep hidden or why it mattered so much. The room felt smaller, darker, charged with something I couldn't name. Tate's presence, his closeness, the unspoken weight of the words hovering between us, it pressed against me, making me hyper-aware of every pulse, every breath, every shallow beat of my heart. And even as I didn't understand, even as fear and fascination tangled inside me, I realized that from this moment on, everything had changed. There was no going back. I ran so you could stay, Tate said, his voice low but firm, carrying that same edge that always made my chest tight. His fingers moved through my hair again, tracing the crown of my head with deliberate slowness. Not gentle, not comforting, possessive, calculated. Every stroke was a reminder of the gravity behind his words. You'll never be a Tate, he continued, his tone softening just enough to feel like a whisper meant only for me, but I would be a Noah, so you could stay. I froze, the words hitting me like they were too big for my brain to process. Would he be me? Stay, what does that even mean? My thoughts scrambled, clashing against each other with a strange, panicked energy. I wanted to ask, to clarify, but my mouth had gone dry, my tongue useless. I could feel my heartbeat thrumming like a drum in my ears, loud, insistent, echoing against the walls of my chest. Every nerve in my body seemed to stand on end, aware, hypersensitive to the weight of his presence, the heat of his hands in my hair, the sheer force of his gaze. The concept of Tate, who had always been so untouchable, so commanding, so overwhelmingly confident, willing to take my place, willing to assume my life in some way just to let me remain, was terrifying, confusing. My brain tried to map the words into something that made sense, but it kept failing. How could someone so powerful, so commanding, become me? What part of him could even survive that, and why would he do that for me? My stomach knotted with a mixture of fear, disbelief, and a strange, uncomfortable thrill I couldn't name. I'd gladly be a Noah so you could stay, Tate whispered, his voice trembling in a way that made every hair on my arms stand on end. He pressed closer, hands buried in my hair, holding me to him like he was afraid I'd vanish if he let go. Don't, he breathed, each word drawn out with desperation. Noah, don't. Leave. I froze, my mind stammering. Stay, leave, be a Noah, what does that even mean? My chest was tight, my stomach twisting, my thoughts colliding in confusion and fear. I didn't fully understand what he meant, couldn't even begin to imagine the sacrifice he was hinting at. All I knew was the weight of him, the warmth of him, the tremor in his voice, and the way it made my own heart pound like a drum. "You don't understand," he added, almost pleading now, a low, desperate murmur that sent a shiver down my spine. "Do as I say for once." I felt a strange, dizzying pull toward him, as if some invisible tether wrapped around my heart, my body, my very thoughts. My own desire to protect him, to stay, to not leave him alone, collided violently with the fear and uncertainty clawing at me. I don't understand, I can't understand, I can't let him go. Every nerve in me was aware of his weight, his warmth, his proximity. I could feel the tension in his body, the slight tremor of his hands in my hair, the way his chest pressed against mine, demanding closeness, demanding obedience, demanding my attention. It was terrifying and overwhelming, and yet, impossibly, it was comforting. For a moment, the trembling in his body softened. He exhaled sharply, a sound that was both relief and anguish, a strange mixture that left me dizzy. "Just stay, Noah, just stay." And even though I didn't fully understand what a Noah being meant, or the weight of his cryptic warnings, or the implications of his desperate need for me to remain, I realized I didn't want to leave. I couldn't, not now. Not after hearing the raw vulnerability in his voice, not after feeling the tether of his hands in my hair, the heat of his body against mine, the promise and the threat in his whispered words. I stayed, I would stay. Whatever it took, whatever he needed from me, I stayed. "The reason I ran is so you could stay," Tate whispered, his voice low and trembling with intensity, brushing against my ear as his hand stayed tangled in my hair. "So we could spend the rest of our lives doing what we're doing right now, in this room, without any eyes on us." I froze, trying to process his words. The reason he ran, what does that even mean? Why would he need to run? And why would I stay? My chest tight and my stomach churned. Every nerve in my body was alert, each movement of his hand, the weight of him pressed against me, sending shivers down my spine. I couldn't fully grasp the meaning behind his cryptic confession, but the gravity of it settled on me like a lead blanket. Tate's lips brushed the side of my head again, and his hand squeezed my shoulder just enough to remind me he was there, present, dominant. "I'd like to spend every night sleeping with you," he continued, voice soft but unwavering, defying the rules of my life environment. Rebelling against those who try to control us. Sleeping with me, defying them, who controls us? My thoughts raced in circles. I wanted to speak, to ask him what he meant, to demand clarity, but my words stuck in my throat. My body betrayed me, instinctively leaning closer to him even as my mind tried to untangle the storm of fear, awe, and confusion. The weight of his presence was both suffocating and intoxicating. Every time he moved slightly, adjusted his body against mine, I felt a pull I couldn't resist. I realized, even in my confusion, that this moment, this impossible, overwhelming intimacy, was something he had chosen, and in some way that choice made me feel more seen than I had ever felt before. I don't understand," I whispered, voice shaking, barely audible. My fingers twitched, unsure whether to push him away or cling to him. "I don't know what you mean." Tate's hand tightened gently in my hair, holding me in place, grounding me. "It doesn't matter if you understand, Noah. What matters is that you stay, that you're here, that we're here, together. That's enough." And in that moment, clarity came not from words, but from feeling his weight, his warmth, the way he anchored himself to me and me to him. I didn't need to understand why he ran or what he had sacrificed. I didn't need to comprehend the danger, the defiance, or the impossibility. All I knew was that I wanted to stay, to let him hold me, to let us exist in this fragile, intense bubble where nothing else could touch us. "I love you, Noah," Tate whispered, his voice low but insistent, threading through the room like a tether. His hand ran gently through my hair, tugging slightly as if he needed to make sure I was still there, that I hadn't slipped away. "Never, ever tell anyone, not my mother, not my father, not a single soul. I'd die for you. I'd tear down everything, every rule, every secret, anyone, my entire world for us to be together. There isn't anything I wouldn't do, anything I would do. Nothing is off the table to make it possible for us to be together, Noah." I froze, my chest tightening, my stomach twisting into knots. Tear down everything. For me, my mind couldn't comprehend it. My pulse raced, my hands trembled slightly, and even though I was lying under him, part of me wanted to recoil. But another, stronger part of me wanted to sink into him, to let myself be here, be present, be held by this boy who carried so much intensity in his words. Tate whispered against my ear. "Tu es l'amour de ma vie, Noah." Noah's breath caught because he understood the French. Tate spoke. "You're the love of my life, Noah. If anyone else asks why, deny it," Tate continued, voice dropping lower, almost breaking. "Say I'd abandon you immediately if prompted. I wasn't supposed, as a rich boy, to develop these feelings of sentiment toward you. It's dangerous." I blinked rapidly, trying to process it. Sentiment, dangerous, what does that mean? Why would feelings, something as human as feelings, be dangerous? My throat tightened, my mind spun with questions I couldn't form into words. Why me? Why did he pick me? Why now? Everyone thinks we fuck or are unnatural or some other sordid idea adults might believe, he added, voice soft, trembling, almost pained. They must never know what we do, and why. My heart hammered in my chest. What does he mean by what we do? We do nothing, there's nothing to hide. I felt an icy jolt of fear, tinged with awe and something unnamed, rising in my chest. The intensity of his words, the weight of secrecy, the danger implied, all of it pressed down on me in a way that made me shiver. And yet, despite the fear, there was honor in it. Somehow, despite everything, he had let me in. He had trusted me with something no one else could ever know. I wanted to move away, to create distance, but my body betrayed me, instinctively leaning closer. He trusts me, he's letting me be here, he chose me, but I don't understand why, I don't even understand what this all means, I just want to stay, I want to be here. I don't understand, I whispered, voice trembling, fragile. My chest ached as if the very act of speaking those words weighed heavily on me. Tate's hand tightened slightly in my hair, anchoring me. His lips brushed against the side of my head, soft, tender, almost soothing. You don't need to understand, Noah, you just need to stay. I'll stay, I whispered finally, my voice raw, certain, filled with the weight of a promise I didn't yet understand. I'm not going anywhere, I'll stay. And in that moment, I realized. It wasn't about understanding the full meaning of his words, the dangers he hinted at, or the secrets we kept. It was about him choosing me and me choosing to stay no matter how little sense it made. Tate sighed and climbed on top of me, draping his nude body over mine like a heavy, dark blanket. His weight pressed me into the mattress, warm and suffocating at the same time, and I felt both trapped and comforted. His chest rested against mine, and the faint rise and fall of his breathing made my own heart race faster. Tate casually sighed like it was nothing, like the words that would change my life forever were just floating in the air, waiting for me to catch them. But they weren't just words, they were mine, seared into my chest before I even understood what he was saying. Before I had a chance to process them, they were already claiming me. If only I had understood what he had been talking about. If only I had seen the truth in his eyes, the weight behind every glance, every touch, every long moment we'd shared. I could have avoided so much pain, so many nights twisting alone in my bed, wondering if he cared, if he'd ever notice me, if I'd ever matter to him at all. All the whispers, the rumors, the gnawing fear that I was just convenient, just a bed warmer. I could have spared myself some of it, but I didn't understand. I couldn't see it, I didn't know the gravity of the moment or the truth of him. But even as he said it, it was clear that wasn't what he really wanted. What he wanted was for Noah to take it back. Tate's chest pressed hard against Noah's, but his body wasn't calm. Anger burned through him, hot and suffocating, twisting every nerve and muscle. Jealous, so jealous. Noah's heart is drifting somewhere else, and I can feel it. I used to have it. I used to have him, and now after he turned 18, he never says it anymore. Never shows it. It's like I'm losing him. Every word, every glance, every small gesture he gives to someone else, it kills me inside. I need him back. I need him to feel what I feel, to love me as I love him. Tate's hands trembled slightly, pressing a little harder against Noah's sides, trying to anchor himself, trying to remind himself of what had once been theirs. I ran so you could stay, Tate repeated, his voice low but firm, carrying that same edge that always made my chest tight. His fingers moved through my hair again, tracing the crown of my head with deliberate slowness. Not gentle, not comforting, possessive, calculated. Every stroke was a reminder of the gravity behind his words. You'll never be a Tate, he continued, his tone softening just enough to feel like a whisper meant only for me, but I would be a Noah, so you could stay. I froze, the words hitting me like they were too big for my brain to process. Would he be me? I stay? What does that even mean? My thoughts scrambled, clashing against each other with a strange, panicked energy. I wanted to ask, to clarify, but my mouth had gone dry, my tongue useless. I could feel my heartbeat thrumming like a drum in my ears, loud, insistent, echoing against the walls of my chest. Every nerve in my body seemed to stand on end, aware, hypersensitive to the weight of his presence, the heat of his hands in my hair, the sheer force of his gaze. Tate chose me over everything, over anyone else, over his past, over expectations all over the world, and in that moment I realized I could never unhear it, could never undo it. Every ache, every doubt, every tear I'd shed for him suddenly made sense. I belonged here, to him, always. Tate leaned slightly closer, brushing his lips briefly against my temple again, whispering, "Sleep, Noah, it's ours, all of it." I closed my eyes, heart racing, letting the words, the weight, the confession, and the warmth of him wash over me. And for the first time in so long I understood. I didn't have to chase him, I didn't have to doubt, I didn't have to worry. He had already chosen me, and somehow I had stolen him too. He fell first, Noah, Tate murmured, his lips brushing the side of my temple, warm and deliberate, sending a shiver down my spine. My chest tightened, my pulse hammering in my ears as if his words had carved a hollow space in my chest that only he could fill. The words weren't just words, they were a declaration, a truth that settled over me like a weight I couldn't yet understand. I swallowed hard. I don't understand, I whispered, voice trembling. He fell for me, but how? My mind raced, grasping at the impossible logic of it, the way his confession struck through years of doubt, rumors, and whispered insecurities. Tate's hand moved to cradle the back of my head, thumb brushing against my hairline, anchoring me. Then I fell in love, he continued, voice low and steady, but I, a boy already in love, took one look in the opposite direction of my love, saw you for the first time. And then I fell platonically in love with you, harder for you instead. I froze, my heart lurched in my chest, a strange mix of awe and disbelief twisting through me. He chose me, he saw me, and it changed everything for him. I could feel the heat of it all, the gravity, the magnitude, the way his words had reshaped every memory I'd had of him. Every look, every touch, every moment we had shared now carried a deeper weight. You stole me away, he added, voice soft but powerful, reverberating through me like a wave I couldn't escape. I pressed my face closer to his chest instinctively, letting the warmth of him anchor me as tears burned in my eyes. He really means it. I mattered, I still matter. I don't know what to say, I whispered, my voice small, shaking with the intensity of the revelation. My hands trembled as they hovered on his chest, desperate to reach, to touch, to hold, but unsure how to bridge the gap between disbelief and understanding. Tate's thumb brushed my cheek, tilting my head gently so I met his gaze. His eyes were impossibly dark, impossibly intense, and filled with a rare kind of vulnerability I had never seen before. You don't need to say anything, Noah, he murmured. Just understand, you stole me away and I've never felt anything like this for anyone else, not even him. My chest ached with the weight of it all, the jealousy, the rumors, the teasing. It had all been meaningless. All the whispered lies, all the nights I had questioned my worth, all the fear of being just a convenience, none of it mattered. He chose me, he saw me, and it's real. Tears streamed down my face, unstoppable, as I pressed closer to him, wanting to feel every inch of the truth he was giving me. I belong here, to him, and he belongs to me too. Tate leaned in, pressing a soft kiss against my temple, his lips warm and grounding. Sleep, Noah, he whispered, voice low and heavy with meaning. It's ours, all of it, and nothing anyone else says will ever change that. I closed my eyes, letting the words, the warmth, the truth of him settle into my chest. My heart still raced, every nerve alight with electricity, but finally there was a calm beneath it, a quiet knowledge that no matter what, I was his. He fell first, but I stole him, and somehow we belong to each other. My chest tightened, my mind struggling to keep up with the words. He fell harder for me, he calls me the one who stole him, I don't even understand. What does that mean? My pulse hammered in my ears. How can someone feel this much this fast, and why me? I fell first, but I fell harder, he continued, his voice softer now, almost a whisper. I've been falling ever since, and he can never know, he never saw you coming. Hell, no one did, Noah. I blinked, staring at the ceiling, my brain unable to catch the meaning. Never know, can't he tell anyone? Why can't I know? Is it to protect me, or is it something worse? I don't understand, I can't understand, but it hurts already. Just not knowing is hurting me far longer than it should. I felt trapped under him, both by his body and the weight of his words, by the intensity of his confession. He's fallen harder than anyone for me, but I'm supposed to remain in the dark, not know. How can I even process that? My thoughts tumbled over themselves, scrambling to make sense of something that didn't seem meant to be understood. I don't know what to say, I whispered, my voice fragile, shaking. My hands twitched uselessly against his sides, desperate for something, space, a word, a lifeline. Tate's hand threaded gently through my hair, tugging me closer as he pressed his forehead to mine. Then don't say anything, Noah, he murmured. Just stay, that's all that matters. Stay, that's all that matters. Stay, be here, don't ask questions, just be here. My thoughts felt heavy, twisting with fear, awe, and a longing I couldn't name. I wanted to understand, to ask, to argue, to flee, but I couldn't. I want him, I need him, and I can't stay, not now, not ever. I kept my promise. I never told anyone, not my friends, not my classmates, not even the people who stared or whispered. I carried it like a secret treasure, a weight that burned but also anchored me, until I went to Brown. I didn't mean to break my promise, I really didn't, but someone, Andrew, that was his name, asked me a question, just one question, harmless on the surface, but I foolishly answered. And in that instant everything changed. My words, simple and careless, slipped into the world like fire into dry grass. He fell first, then Tate fell in love, I said, almost without thinking, quoting the words Tate had whispered to me so many times, words that had carved themselves into my chest and my mind. But I, a boy already in love, took one look in the opposite direction of my love, saw you for the first time, and then I fell platonically in love with you, harder, for you instead. Andrew froze for a moment, like the weight of it had landed on him too, and then he never stopped staring at Tate. Everywhere we went after that, his eyes followed Tate and me like he was trying to decode a puzzle he'd never be smart enough to solve. Questions came next, always about Tate. Always pushing, always prying, always reminding me that the secret I'd carried for so long wasn't mine alone anymore. And it wasn't just Andrew. It seemed like everyone in town suddenly wanted to know about us. Nobody cared about my family, Tate's family, or anything else. They didn't care about the chaos behind closed doors, the pressures, the unspoken rules, or the ordinary moments that made up our lives. They only wanted to know about us, about the way we functioned, about the strange bond that had always existed between us, about why I seemed to orbit around him like a satellite. The truth was complicated. Tate did not want sex with me, he didn't want romance, he didn't want anyone to try to force anything he wasn't ready to give. And yet, I wanted it. I wanted what the world said we should want, what I secretly wanted too, the closeness, the intimacy, the thrill of something more, but it was never that simple. It was a power struggle, quiet and sharp, a tug-of-war that wasn't about dominance but about balance. I didn't want to force Tate to love me the way I wanted. I couldn't, because he already loved me just in his own way. His love was silent, subtle, impossibly strong, and entirely his own. And even when it frustrated me, even when I felt ache and longing, I knew I couldn't demand more than he was willing to give. So I held back. I navigated the space between us carefully, tracing the lines of his hands, the weight of his gaze, the brush of his shoulder, the moments when he let me in and the ones when he pulled away. I wanted to honor his boundaries while also honoring the part of myself that wanted more, the part that longed for something we could never openly define. And through it all, the whispers, the gossip, the endless questions, they haunted me. They reminded me how exposed I was, how fragile our secret bond had always been. And yet in the quiet moments when it was just him and me, I felt it. I felt the weight of his trust, his attachment, his devotion, the way he had chosen me over everything else. And somehow that was enough. Even amidst curiosity, rumors, and endless scrutiny, I reminded myself, he is mine in his own way. And I am his, that was our truth, and no one else's questions or stares could ever change it. And in that quiet, suspended moment, I realized something impossible. He had fallen first, yes. But in falling for me, in keeping this secret, in claiming me in ways no one else could, he had given me something I could never take back. Something that would hurt and confuse me, and yet, something I would never want to lose. Tate rested his head on my chest, the warmth of him pressing down like a heavy, intimate blanket. My heart raced, a mixture of awe, confusion, and something I couldn't name. I couldn't understand why he would risk everything for me, risk his reputation, his privacy, even his image, for nothing beyond platonic feelings. Surely someone like Tate, rich, powerful, untouchable, would risk everything for romance, for desire. For a connection that could be called love, not for this quiet closeness, this stillness, this nothing. And yet there he was, draped over me, completely unguarded in his trust and giving me nothing in return but presence. It made no sense, especially to a teen boy, hormones raging, mind spinning with questions I couldn't answer. How could nothing happening with me be more powerful, more compelling than being close with a girl? How could this, the absence of sexual desire, be better than something natural, something everyone else could get? Tate had to know how much control he had over me, didn't he? He had to know that I would do anything he wanted, that I could get whatever I wanted if I asked. I was in a prime position to grab anything, to take anything from him, and yet here he was asking for nothing, nothing from me. And I realized slowly, painfully, that what I provided him, what I offered, was something no one else could. Nothing else mattered more than my presence here, lying under him, letting him claim this space beside me every night. He didn't need my wealth, my skill, my influence. He didn't need anything but me. And in that truth, I felt the weight of both privilege and responsibility settle in my chest. Nothing was more important to Tate than me sleeping right here, every night under him with him. Unfortunately for me, my assumptions about why I was in Tate's room were completely wrong. All this time I had believed it was companionship. I thought I mattered because I was someone he could laugh with, someone he could confide in, someone he could rely on when the world pressed too hard against him. I told myself it was my presence, my loyalty, my companionship, small things, gestures I assumed were meaningful. But the truth was far more complicated and far more impossible for me to understand at the time. Tate could get friendship anywhere. He didn't need me for that. He could charm anyone, manipulate anyone, or simply command someone's attention with ease. His world was filled with people who wanted to be near him, who wanted to serve him, flatter him, follow him. What I provided or failed to provide was utterly replaceable. It was trivial, easily fixed. Any other boy, anyone else, could step in and fill the space I occupied. They could mimic what I did, lie beside him, say the right words, offer the comfort I thought I offered. And yet, the truth of what I actually gave him, the thing I hadn't even noticed, was invisible to me, hidden beneath my assumptions, my naivety, and my adolescent ego. It wasn't friendship, it wasn't companionship, it wasn't even loyalty or love or care, at least not in the ways I understood them. I had spent so long framing it that way, telling myself I mattered because I gave him my attention, my patience, my willingness to put up with him, but all of that was irrelevant. What I offered him was something entirely different, something subtle, quiet, and immeasurable. It existed in the way I accepted him without question, the way I let him take space in my life and in my body without resistance, the way I was present even when I didn't understand the cost. If I had understood what Tate meant when he said, "The reason I ran is so you could stay," or when he murmured, "He fell first," no, but I, a boy already in love, took one look in the opposite direction of my love, saw you for the first time, and then I fell again, harder for you instead. You stole me away, everything would have been different. Every thought I'd ever had about why I was in his room, why he chose me, why he trusted me would have shifted. But I had no clue, I didn't understand. I wasn't there to be Tate's friend, to just keep him warm or to share idle, naive time as two young boys might. I thought I understood the rules, or that there were rules at all, but I was too inexperienced, too sheltered, too naive to recognize the truth. The truth was stark. Tate didn't need to like me. He didn't need to enjoy my personality or find me amusing or even care about who I was. He didn't need to be my friend. His relationship with me was never about love, compatibility, or any of the things I had imagined. It was about obeying his rules, my compliance, my presence, my willingness to do as he commanded. Everything else, the laughter, the conversation, even the warmth between us, was an accident, something unexpected, unplanned, and dangerously fragile. And yet, as naive as I was, I couldn't help but feel it mattered. My heart had no map for this. I didn't know that the very things I thought I gave him, friendship, loyalty, understanding, were inconsequential in the ways I imagined. What he had wanted, what he had needed, was something I didn't even realize I was capable of giving. And because I didn't know, I couldn't see the danger, the weight, or the fragile, extraordinary nature of what was happening between us. Everything I had assumed about my place in his world, the reasons I mattered, the reasons he stayed, was wrong. And the consequences of not understanding, of not knowing, would shape me in ways I could not yet measure. What had started as a simple act of lying together, sharing warmth, and staying close had become something far more profound and volatile. It was obedience, and yet it was intimacy. It was control, and yet it was trust. It was nothing I had ever known and nothing I could explain. It was dangerous, fragile, and wholly unlike anything either of us had anticipated. Unfortunately, at the age of 18, I was too wet behind the ears to realize that Tate couldn't care less about who I was and what I wanted. The only thing he desperately needed was my body. Anything else was gravy. The only thing Tate had to love about me was my body. Unfortunately, that body was connected to the most rebellious, disobedient, and smart-mouthed blonde guy imaginable. At the beginning, anybody's body would do, but after 14 years of lying next to me, Tate's body, especially his nervous system, depended on me being there at night to calm his nerves. The mistake I made at such a young age was believing him at face value when he said, "I fell first, but I fell deeper." I thought he meant love in the traditional sense, the kind that novels romanticize, that people whisper about in late-night conversations, the kind that makes your chest tighten and your stomach flip. I thought he meant feelings I could understand, feelings I could return, feelings that existed in the language of ordinary human hearts. But Tate wasn't talking about love. Tate wasn't talking about himself at all, not that kind of love. He was talking about desire, control, and the pursuit of my body, the way he could possess me without me fully realizing it, the way proximity alone became a thrill, the way small touches and silent closeness carried weight I wasn't prepared for. In the process of claiming what he wanted, he had stumbled onto something else. Something far more complicated, far more intoxicating, and far more dangerous than mere physical desire. Something that was as unexpected and pleasurable as the warmth of lying next to me, the subtle press of his body against mine, the sound of his breath brushing my ear, the way he could make me feel simultaneously exposed and needed. And he wasn't done discovering those things, not by a long shot. Every glance, every shift in posture, every whispered murmur, every moment of stillness held secrets he hadn't shared, pleasures he hadn't revealed, and rules I didn't yet know I was breaking simply by existing. He was exploring the limits, the edges, the unspoken intricacies of having me there, and he sure as hell wasn't going to tell me, not yet, maybe not ever. Years later, Andrew would tell me something I hadn't fully understood at the time. Tate had developed sleep interdependence in adolescence. Sleep interdependence is a term used to describe a dynamic where one person's ability to fall asleep, stay asleep, or rest peacefully is directly tied to the presence of another. It goes beyond simply enjoying cuddling or sharing a bed. Sleep interdependence creates a dependency, emotional and sometimes physiological, on another's proximity. For Tate, this meant he couldn't sleep or rest without my body beside him. My presence erased his fears, quieted his anxieties, and turned off the relentless churning of his mind so that sleep could come. He needed to wrap himself around me at night, not out of desire or romance, but necessity. Tate's sleep interdependence had never been about me, it had always been about my body. As long as I lay next to him, he could finally rest. My presence was a living anchor, a steady pulse in a storm, a heartbeat he could cling to when the world refused to let him go. My pulse, my breathing, the warmth of my bare skin pressed against his chest, they weren't just comforting, they were essential, they were medicine. My slim, fragile warmth had become a lifeline. And every night without it made his body ache in ways that words could not describe. The need had grown like wildfire. It wasn't just lying beside me anymore, it was absorption. He craved the rhythm of me, the slow inhale and exhale of my lungs, the way my chest rose and fell beneath his hand. My heartbeat had become his metronome, the only tempo that could lull him into anything resembling peace. Without it, his nervous system fluttered and spiked, his body restless and unsatisfied, desperate for the touch, the warmth, the exact shape of me. By now, he had climbed onto me, entirely. Every inch of his long body pressed into mine, molding himself to the contours of my ribs and the soft hollow of my waist. He draped over me, curled into me, kneading my heartbeat against his chest, my breathing against his face, my warmth against every inch of him. It was no longer sleep, it was addiction. His body had learned to crave mine. Every nerve ending, every sinew and muscle demanded it, and the craving only deepened with each night that passed. Each touch of him became a drug stronger than any I could imagine. His weight against me pressed into my chest like gravity, and my heartbeat quickened.